Hello guys, welcome to this new videos. We continue to talk about wars. Making wars evolved throughout the history. Colonialist countries developed tools to keep the conflicts among the nations or inside the nation to guarantee their interests. This became science. And actually, this science didn't start in colonialism era. It started centuries before that. We can consider Machiavelli book, The Prince, the first step to create this science, which care about mainly how to understand the nations or the crowds and how to control these people, how to move them, how to stop them, how to distract them. And this science didn't stop in the Prince book. It continued, but the difference between this science and the other science that it evolved in different circumstances and ways. So while other sciences were taught in universities and everywhere, the books of them, every discoveries of these technologies, any other science was published immediately. The science of how to control people, how to control the crowds, how to move them, how to stop them, how to distract them. This science was actually went in different way and circumstances. So it was developed in somehow this secret way by secret entities. So let's say the entities which invested in such science are not the universities or the regular schools or institutes. Rather, it was intelligence agencies or military complexes, etc. So such kind of entities developed this science and invested in it hugely. And this science is mixed of psychology, media, politics, many other shape this science and to contribute to it. This science actually became the most profitable science, and we can imagine if there are a lot of profit from some science, how much those who profit from this science they invest in it. So if we say technologies like computers or smartphones bring like billions of dollars or trillions of dollars, so those who are involved in this industry or profit from it, they will invest like also billions of or trillions. We can imagine also that these entities invest the same amount of in research and in finding out how to control people, how to understand the mind of the crowds, and how to move them, even to buy the tools, let's say the main media or massive media, to keep these crowds going in the direction that these entities want. In my book, I call these entities Frankenstein monsters. And why I choose this comparison, although we think that the humanity created these entities and control them, the reality is that these entities which created by humanity now became stronger than the humanity, and it controls actually the humanity. So let me give you an example. Let's say that there is some very strong military complex or intelligence agency. Its members should be let's say killed or in jail or whatever. The entities decide should happen to its members. So this tells us that these entities, although that's apparently they are controlled by men, but actually they control the humanity. And now when we talk about strong or like tycoon entities like New York Times, Der Spiegel, or CIA, NSA, or Pentagon, these entities are stronger than those who are member of it, and they can even decide that these people they should go or come or whatever happened to them. Unfortunately, according to the interests of these entities, the decisions are made. So not only them, it's not about the members of these entities or those who rules these entities which can go and come and die or whatever, but these entities actually they control the world, and they have the tools which the individual don't understand easily, and that's why the confusion when somebody talk about explanation of this game, immediately people start to talk, oh, that's the stupid conspiracy theory and so on. Actually, it's not necessarily the conspiracy theory, because the conspiracy theory talk about some group or some men meet somewhere like to decide the world, but without giving any explanation why these people have the tool, or they just have money or whatever. But actually these entities, it's imaginable that these entities have the enough power to do or to control people, because they have what the individuals they don't have. And actually this is a main problem, how to understand the situation, because the individuals they don't have the tools to understand what these entities have. But in our time, we know that some big companies, let's say Google, Mercedes, Facebook, YouTube, they have tools to manipulate people, to move people, to brainwash people, to control people, control their minds. Now we can imagine, if you told somebody about these issues and he denied this or rejected this, you will just consider him, he's not aware of all the circumstances or the information about this issue. That doesn't mean that these companies they don't really control or manipulate the people, even for commercial goals. And if that happened in the business world, that could happen also in politic worlds, because the politic as a business, it's more profitable, much more profitable than the private sector. So if we can talk about billions of dollars in the industries like technologies, we can talk about trillions of dollars when we talk about the industry of political economies that controlled by these economical entities like CIA or Pentagon try to dominate. We are talking about trillions of dollars. So if Bill Gates or Steve Jobs invested a couple of billions of dollars to keep their business in the top of the industry, we can imagine that these politicians or these entities invest also the same amount, even much more to invest in all kind of tools that keep them in the top of this industry, to keep their position in the world. And this investment is in many sectors, mainly in psychology, in acquiring the media, in paying for mercenaries and all kind of mercenaries. Actually nowadays we have a lot of mercenaries, a lot of kinds of mercenaries, mainly the politicians, the intellectuals, the writers and the speakers, journalists, reporters, all kind of mercenaries. And as I mentioned in the beginning, some of them they don't know exactly they are mercenary, because they are not aware of the total game. So they see exactly just the part that it's related to them, and they were paid by some entity. They don't necessarily declare their identity when they pay, so they were bought like by proxy, and they think we are supporting, for instance, revolution, or we are doing something good for the world or for freedom, but actually they are doing some rule decided to them by some entities, this kind of entities that we mentioned already.